Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Blindsiders. I am here. I am Dylan. You will notice I am not Ben. Ben is currently tied up in the trunk of my car, so I can host this episode. I am joined by our co-host Brian. Brian, say what's up to the people.
Hey everybody, thanks for checking it out. I'm what they call a accessory after the fact now that Dylan let me know that Ben's tied up. But you know what? I'm a professional, so we're just going to commit to the show and just go for it.
For those of you that were fans of Wicked Good Show, you would know that I was hell-bent on being the host. The thought of having Ben do it for this long was very upsetting to me, and I finally snapped, so here we are.
Yes.
We're showdown the two people.
So.
No, Ben is under the weather. We're going through a bit of a sick streak because people will know we weren't here last week either because we had some team members not feeling well either. I'm still battling through a cold, so we're
it's a mess, a whole mess over here.
It's just like we're on the island. We're going through just as much as they are.
More even. There's no Applebee's coming to rescue me last week.
That was also fake Applebee's. I will say that looks so good. Like that was just like they had like chefs wearing Applebee's smocks making like Applebee's recipes, but they were like that looked so much better than regular Applebee's. Because I was thinking about like door dashing it, and then like right before I pulled the trigger, I'm like I'm not even gonna get remotely anything like the food that they got there.
Those burgers were enormous. Those burgers are not the size of Applebee's burgers.
All 4 burgers that Jonathan ate, in like a 3-minute span.
Yeah, he ate the equivalent of like 2 cows and probably like 100 chickens, I assume, during that feast. Which, hey, good for him. I can't imagine being that muscular and not eating for 12 days. That had to be wearing on him.
We'll get to it. He brings up some good points about being the biggest guy there and eating while also trying not to like expose himself for being large by eating like all the food. It's just pretty much what he was saying. So yes, great episode. I'm actually really looking forward to talking about it. I think that this was one of the better episodes. I think this was the best episode we've gotten so far in between the 2 seasons. So I am very, very high on it.
And not only a huge episode in general, but a really big episode for your winner pick.
Yes, agreed.
And
Rocksroy.
I learned a lot about him. I thought it was
great. He gets his moments to shine. I thought it was a really, really well edited episode. I thought that we had some really great comedic moments in here through the editing that worked really well. The pacing was unbelievable. We were really exposed to every single person that is left in this game, which is really nice. Obviously, a really bittersweet ending for us with Lydia Chlamydia, but it was great. I mean, we'll get into it beginning to end, and because so much small things happened during this as well. It was just it was Survivor. This is what we want. It was the game. It was the game being played by a lot of people who really know the game. They're playing the game well. It was beautiful to see.
Yeah, man, I was impressed with the level of gameplay. Like, there's a certain point, like it's hard where it's like everyone's like game body. But I think this season has a good mix of like people playing with their hearts on their sleeve, but also trying to do like the best strategic moves where, sometimes the seasons can feel a little cold when everyone's just like, yes, I know the optimal move to do, and I am going to do that. You know what I mean?
Last season, yeah. That's how I felt about last season.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into it. I now with Ben tied up in the trunk of my car, I had to rewatch the episode to get all the notes in order. Ben's job is not easy, so here we go. We start out the episode, 2-hour-long episode, by the way. I guess before we get into that, any really thoughts about last week with Daniel getting voted out?
Yeah, man. So I liked Daniel as a super fan. What a nightmare of a season, of a performance for him. How I would imagine if I actually ever went on to Survivor, it would probably go fairly similarly, which is why a big reason why I would never actually go on Survivor, because I know something like this would happen.
Agreed. Let me cover up some of my acne on my forehead here with this buff. Yeah, agreed. I had Daniel in my winners pool, in my family pool, winning it all. So a little bummed there, but his game really was just toast at that tribal with trying to vote out Lydia, Chanel, and it was just chaos. I'm still of the opinion Chanel's game was also broke there. She still obviously has a fighting chance. Daniel, he just didn't. And then we saw in that episode too that Daniel was like basically just refusing to compete in physical challenges, saying that he couldn't do it while he's out there spearfishing. Just I don't know, a bummer, because I think at one point we all kind of agreed that maybe he's actually, this guy's going to be a real legit player, contender. Same thing with Chanel, and we just it's not what we're gonna get. And
No.
So that's my thoughts about Daniel.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
He just had no like recovery in him. Like the second it started, just the second the plane or like the car started to hydroplane, he just could not get it back, and it was not good.
And he had a really good origin story too, with having I believe it was leukemia as a kid and fighting through that, and so it was something to root for. But I found myself kind of really almost starting to root against him in that episode. So that's really all I have to say about that. It's the right choice to vote him out, because I do think that Chanel's a better player overall between the two. So that's really that. I don't think that it really changes anything that's going to go on in this episode either. So I don't think there's really too much to touch on there.
Yeah, no, same. I don't think. I think Mike was totally done with Daniel, so he has no like. He doesn't feel bad that Daniel's gone. We'll put it that way.
And as we see now, High still holds grudges. So and we'll get into my thoughts on High and his gameplay here as well.
Little shades of Arya Stark with his little list of
people
who've wronged him.
I see a lot of comparisons between High and Shan from last season, and I've also seen a few people bring up maybe Ricard from last season too. And I actually think he's the best parts of both of them combined. I think he's a better player. He's more sociable. I think he thinks. He thinks with his head more so than with his heart, although we'll get into it. I'm a little curious of his thought process at the end of this episode, but I'm sure we have two different points of view. But all right, let's get into it. So we start this episode with Vati back on, right? Vati after Tribal, basically getting to Mike saying, who voted for me, and Chanel explaining exactly what we kind of mustered up after letting the chaos settle, is that she was just protecting herself against if there was a dice roll. Makes total sense. Previous history, though, I totally understand why Mike is skeptical of her, why the rest of the tribe is going to be skeptical of her. If I was in her situation, I would have done the same. So I can't really knock that. And her defense is really straightforward. Hey, dude, it's Survivor. And I get that, but like I said, I also get why.
Hey, you voted for me, this tribal council, Mike, so let's cool the jets on.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Yeah. So they both kind of went against their word there, but I think that it was such a broken relationship that it really does not matter in the end, because even as we see in this episode, I don't think Chanel is really in a wonderful spot, regardless.
No, certainly.
And also, apologies. As I said, I'm sick. I just feel my voice like floating in and out. And I have my mic on full blast, so hopefully everybody hears me okay.
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
After this, we get Tori stalking Rocksroy around the woods as he's trying to collect wood or do whatever he's doing. She's trying to get out of him what happened at Shipwreck Cove Island over there, and he's just not giving it up. She's very persistent. Dre and Romeo take notice too that she's very persistent. Just very, very interesting game she's playing of just being like that badgering, annoying player.
Yeah, I mean, one very interesting Rocksroy did not disclose, considering Drea has been to Shipwheel Island already, and I don't know why he would, unless she didn't say what happened there, which I don't get the vibe that she lied to them. I don't know why.
I don't think she let Tori know.
That's probably, okay, that makes sense. And maybe Rocksroy was like, well, Dre didn't let her know, I'm not gonna let her know. Also, Rocksroy just hates Tori so much, which it will come back later, obviously, but it's just, you were getting the setup to the payoff in this.
After this, we get our guy Jeff, who's going to explain the big twist of this episode that we all knew was coming, and really there was no changes at all. The only changes that are going to happen with the hourglass is that the tribe so we're getting to like a pre-merge merge where we're splitting up into two tribes. The tribe that wins it, same as last season, they win it. They win the food. They win immunity from the first vote. Except they're going to be sending someone to an island with the hourglass. They're not telling them exactly. They're telling that, which is the change this time, is that the player is going to be making a game changing decision there. They're going to be having a lot of power. So they're giving. He's basically the change here is that they're giving them much more of a heads up. They're like, hey, really think about this.
Yeah, and it probably Jeff probably hit on it even more because, I mean, we get a scene where like Drea clocks the twist. Like later on, she's like, well, probably they're gonna reverse who's immune and who's in danger, and it's like, okay, shit, they must. We heard last season in like off-season interviews with Danny that he really let Jeff have it.
Yeah,
and I guess Jeff took that to heart.
I guess because in the end, the same thing, same result happens. It's so let's get through this real quick. We have the tribe split up. We have Tribe 1, which is Jonathan, Tori, Lydia, Hi, and Marianne. We have Tribe 2, which is Mike, Drea, Romeo, Chanel, and Omar. And then the two that drew the gray rocks are Lindsay and Rocksroy, so they don't compete in this. Tribe 1 dominates because they have Jonathan. Jonathan's a natural leader. The tribe is listening. They did what they needed to do. We get the great scene with Mike trying to basically use his body as a ladder for Dre to climb up on. I thought this was a great display of teamwork, of Mike's leadership and Mike's willingness to help everybody, which I think is I'm really grown on Mike. I think he's a great player.
Yeah, I would have loved to see what Mike was talking about later, how he used to be like. Jonathan used to be very jacked and stuff. I would have loved to see Mike have played this game like 15 years ago.
Yeah,
he could have been Jonathan back then because he's still like impressively athletic now.
Athletic, smart. I think he's playing a really strong game.
Me too. Surprisingly so.
That's the thing. I think there's just a lot of people in this season playing very strong, very different games, and it's just so nice to see.
Yeah.
He does kick Dre in the face.
Well, yeah.
Accidentally. But it's just they didn't. And it was very similar to last season too, where I believe it was who's imitating her? It was our girl who couldn't get up on the ball. I've flushed 41 out of my head.
Yeah.
But we saw one team dominate, one team struggle last season as well. So and the team that had Jonathan here, really no surprise. And that was a tribe, a mini tribe of a lot of great players. We had Jonathan, Tori, who say whatever you will about Tori. I still think she's a good villain for this season. Lydia, who obviously we love, Hi, and Marianne. So that was a good tribe that was able to just get behind Jonathan like everybody gets a little piece of hiding behind Jonathan and his strength.
Yeah, no, it was good. It seemed that they just had a insane lead by the time they got to the puzzle to where like I know Jonathan was kind of like, come on, hurry up, but it's like you don't need to, like, take your time. Make sure that everything's right. It's fine. And they won going away. So
obviously this tribe is then able to select between Lindsay and Rocksroy. Who's going to come with them, who's going to be safe and eat, and then who's going to be going to the island for 2 days by themselves to potentially make a game-changing decision. Tori immediately throws out Rocksroy to send him there. I thought that their reasoning was really stupid, that they wanted Lindsay to eat, even though Lindsay has been on the tribe that has won the most so far this season. I thought that makes no sense, and I'm glad that Rocksroy said something like, hey, I need to eat too. So that was dumb, and I think it's something it's important to note there too with Tori, is that because we see later on she was getting very, very defensive when Rocksroy made his choice to break the hourglass.
Yeah.
Crazy. I think that she's I think she's really. I'm like curious to see where she goes because I think that she's like lying to herself. Obviously, we as a viewer get different perspective of the people playing. Wild, just a wild move by her. But obviously, Rocksroy sent to the island. Um, starts. I guess we could quickly cover Rocksroy and then kind of get back to everything else on the
Yeah,
island. So we get Rocksroy. He sent to the island. He starts setting up camp. We get really his great story. I forget the exact condition that he has with his eyes,
yeah.
but there's a good chance that he can maybe potentially go blind into the future. And so he's really kind of, and I loved it too because I feel like I can see myself being the same in this situation of like, holy shit, I'm in Fiji, like I'm seeing this Fiji sunset. He takes his time setting up this fire. He gets the camp going. He's just really soaking everything in, which I thought was great. Like you said, I think that this episode really starts to shape him. Maybe not necessarily into a winner, but he's going to be. I think he's going to be competitive from here on out, which is something I was really worried about. And it's really nice to get the inside look into him, and then we obviously get Jeff coming and explaining the whole hourglass situation to him, which I thought was great too. Jeff shows up. He doesn't even like notice him at first. He's cooking his rice.
Yep.
He gets really excited when he sees Jeff. Tells him he might have to stop to take the rice off. I just thought it was really great, a wholesome moment there for them. And then obviously we have the game explained, which is you can choose to break the hourglass and reset time and take the tribe that lost. They'll now be immune, and then you'll also be immune. And then the tribe that won will have to now compete for individual immunity, or else they'll be up to be voted against. In my opinion, it was, and I took this from him too. There was not even a chance he was going to leave the game as is.
No, I mean, there's no reason to. At that point, we talked about the same thing with Erica last season, and even more so this season, where really the two people he feels closest with in the game are part of the tribe that lost. Yep. So he's going to protect them anyways, and he's going to protect himself because he doesn't know what's happening. He's not having these very important conversations at the beginning of the merge to protect himself or to position himself. And while Drea is, potentially positioning him well herself on his behalf, there's just no way for him to know that. So there's no reason to not smash the hourglass.
Agreed. I think everybody in his situation does that. I think maybe production's hope is that because last year I thought for me it was very obvious that Erica would smash it too. Mm-hmm. I think production's hope is maybe that obviously there's where they're playing the game a chance too with the selection of rocks and all that, is that you kind of get the opposite of maybe you get Rocksroy in the situation where Drea and Romeo lose or excuse me, win, and then you have the dilemma of like, all right, do I basically give up my ability to be safe because I trust my teammates? That's obviously a little more dramatic than what we're getting. Because no brainer. The only person on your tribe that you hate who basically sent you here is going to be losing immunity. Probably didn't think that she had a good chance of winning immunity later on either.
Right. And I mean, if there was any player, I guess, who wouldn't do it, I guess it would be Rocksroy, just in his approach to the game. But I at the same time, I just can't see anyone not doing it. But yeah, I mean, this was a good segment. It was good for Rocksroy as a character. His storyline of potentially losing his sight, that got me, man. That made me tear up. That's fucking tough. And it's great that he's embracing the moment. And I think some people, when they go on these shows, they put a lot of pressure on themselves, and they feel the pressure of people like us who do podcasts and will judge them. And they don't take a moment to step back and kind of take it all in and be like, hey, I'm on Survivor. No matter what happens, I'm here. I'm in this beautiful location. I get to soak it in, and I'm happy that he did that.
Agreed. Especially as a fellow stay-at-home dad. Shout out to Rocksroy, just getting out of the house away from these kids. Great, it's great.
The best. And I mean, I think the show likes him. They did that pre-season commercial with him, which was fun.
Him and his daughter. He named his daughter
Suri, right?
I believe so. Yes. Yep.
Yeah, which is that's awesome. Love Rocksroy. I'm a big fan. I know he's not the best player. I know he's not on the right side of votes a lot of time, but I think I don't know. There's something about him that I do like.
I like my chances of prolonging when I'll have to eat this ghost pepper
Yes, yes,
on air.
absolutely.
It'll be a real shit if he makes it to the final episode and loses in that, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like the whole final episode I'm just gonna be on my deathbed.
Jesus.
All right, so after this, let's get back to the island. So while all this is going on with Rocksroy on his island of exile, we have the Winning Tribe who is devouring Applebee's, like we said earlier,
Mm.
best looking Applebee's ever. Jonathan eating like 4 or 5 burgers, basically talking about how he eats like 18 eggs a day, like
Insane.
9 pieces of cheese, and some grits, like with every meal. That's wild. We really get it in this episode too, just how like hulking of a figure he is. Like he's like just sculpted like a Greek god. He's huge. I was looking at the cast photo before this too, and like I knew he was very tall. He just like towers over everybody. He's
Yeah.
huge, and he brings up the point too that his one big concern is that obviously he is huge, so naturally he's a physical threat, and that's going to go against him. But also, in order to continue to be a big physical threat, he needs to eat a lot. So if he's eating the same portions that other people are eating that are much smaller than him, it's going to end up probably maybe potentially giving them an advantage over him. So he was enjoying that. He didn't get his 18 eggs, but he did get his 4 burgers and a brownie sundae.
And yeah, that quesadilla burger looks really good. I'll say
it did. Like I said, I was really contemplating ordering Applebee's, but I just knew I was not going to even get anything remotely close.
You could probably make your own version of a quesadilla burger, and it might be better than.
Yeah.
Yeah. No hate to Applebee's, of course. If you want to sponsor us, we'll take that.
After this point, we start getting some camp life. One of the first things we get too is Mike and Drea basically talking about how untrustworthy Chanel is. Chanel's name is starting to get thrown out there too, and we kind of start to see maybe this potential alliance start to form between Mike and Drea, and maybe their two sides. Because after this point, this is where the gears kind of like really start to get going. So we see Drea, Hai, and Lindsay beginning to discuss the amulet that they got together in the very first episode. And how that's going to work, which I completely forgot about before this episode going into it. So basically how it works now is they get, and correct me because I didn't write this down, one's an extra vote, I think, right?
Yeah, so...
One steal a vote.
Right, yep.
And then is one full-blown immunity.
Yeah, so it's a little unclear to me if... Do they all have an extra vote right now?
That's unclear to me as well, yes.
Or do they all have to combine their amulets to play an extra vote together?
Yes. Yes, I don't know. That's what I'm saying.
Right. And then the same for the steal. And then, of course, eventually one of them will be the last one, and they'll just have an idol in the form of their amulet. So,
and they basically all agree that we're gonna watch each other's backs basically because we want to keep this going as long as possible. So it's nice to see the three of them still around. And like I said, I completely forgot about this, so it's just another monkey wrench getting thrown into everything going on here. And it's in my opinion, it's a version of all of these twists and idols and all that is actually good in my opinion, because I do think that this is very interesting. And like we said, they were useless before the merge, and obviously they all make the merge. So I'm really curious to see that too, because it seems like that we have, because for the rest of the episode, other than the immunity challenge, we basically get constant scheming and alliances being made. It seems like I think that 8, other than the person that was voted off tonight, seems relatively very solid, at least for the short time being. But then we also clearly have 2 people from that 8 with Lindsay and Drea, or 3 people from that 8 with Lindsay, Drea, and Hai having their own thing with the amulet. We clearly see that Omar is still really pushing for Jonathan and Marianne, maybe less so, which is great. I think we'll get into more towards the end too. I think Omar MVP just completely turning his entire game around. He's no longer all without a vote too. He's no longer just Jonathan's sidekick. He's this guy is driving, making moves, because I personally think it was probably Marianne before he started throwing Lydia out there, or maybe even potentially Jonathan too. Because I mean, I don't know if we both agree. I think the smartest move possible for everybody would have been to get Jonathan out. It's Jonathan
Yeah.
said it himself. I would have voted him out too.
Yeah.
I think maybe potentially some people on that are still remaining are potentially underestimating his social game that we've obviously had a chance to see a lot of,
Mm.
because I think that his social game is almost just as strong as his physical game, because it seems like he's a lot of people really like him.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, Mike like instantly like felt a kinship to him and was like, "This is my guy." Like maybe to the end. I love this guy. So
so
that's impressive.
that's another great moment we got to was Jonathan and Mike basically vibing over being, two meatheads, two people that haven't always had it the easiest in life too. But it also gave us maybe one of my favorite edits of the episode where, and this is post community challenge after Tori wins it, but of Romeo basically saying like we need to get Jonathan out. He's a man's man. Everybody loves him. And then it cuts to Mike basically saying how much he loves him, and then it pans
Yeah.
over to Romeo being like,
Yeah.
it was very very funny editing.
Yeah, and I liked that moment a lot too, the Mike and Jonathan moment. And I saw some people on Twitter being like, "Oh, it's so hard for like strong men." And it's like I don't like, come on, like people complain about toxic masculinity. These are two men expressing their emotions on
Yeah,
TV. Like, cut them some slack. I don't know.
in whatever your thoughts on it are, it's just the fact that the stronger ones in the game are going to be the ones that people are going to start going after sooner rather than later. Particularly recently, very rarely do we get the strongest physical people in the end. Like even Xander last year, he was in good shape, but he wasn't like this dominant physical threat compared to the rest of the cast.
Yeah, I would say
Not the way
Danny
Jonathan
was
is.
the
Yep.
equivalent of Jonathan.
Yep.
But I mean, Danny's a former professional athlete. Like,
Yep.
it's going to be hard to be more athletic than him.
Agreed. Sorry, I'm like going through my notes here. I don't want to jump because I feel like there is something that we're missing. Okay, so we do get into High basically saying that he potentially sees himself using Jonathan as a shield as well.
Mm-hmm.
We see High and Romeo bonding over everything that they have in common, but both being gay men. Romeo, High kind of being the opposite of Romeo, where High is very out in the open with it, where Romeo is kind of really struggling, with how to tell his family and his friends and all that. So
Yeah.
that's if gun to head, I really think High is probably being shaped up as the winner here,
I agree.
because I think he's for sure building the best alliances, and he's the one that is seemingly just going around to everybody, talking them up, and it's all really positive. I think that probably plays into in the end why he ends up flipping on Lydia, is because I think that he sees. And I really didn't think he would. I think we'll save that because I think that was the biggest shock for me. But we see High building all those relationships, and I think that maybe that plays into him feeling more comfortable doing that in the end. And then we also see High really showing that he's out to get Chanel, because we see him now blowing up Chanel to Omar, and it's really curious to see how that works too, because I didn't even think about that. Omar hasn't even had a chance to go to Tribal yet to figure out whether or not he lost his vote.
I had not. That was not top of mind for me either. When they brought it up, I was like, "Oh yeah, shit, that sucks."
So he finds out that he lost his vote, and that also Chanel is actually not telling him. And our exact thoughts too of when this all went down is that Chanel very much made it seem like she was going to be keeping her vote safe, and so this screws over Omar, but also lays into a very very impressive play by him in the end. To kind of save his tribe. Basically, and then we also see everybody being super awkward around Chanel. So Chanel comes over to them when they're sitting down, basically saying like, "Hey, what's going on here?" They're very, very awkward. Another one of my favorite scenes, she goes up to Lydia, and Lydia kind of like really doesn't play it off that well. And then she goes up to them again, and then Hyde's like, "Hey, yeah, we're just talking, like, they're cool and they think that you're cool." And then it's just another great editing moment. It just stops and it's super quiet. And then everybody's like, "All right, I gotta go do this." And everybody's just like, "Yeah, I'll go do that too." They all disperse. I thought that was another hilarious edited moment there.
Yeah, I can't imagine Chanel felt too great after having people quickly disperse twice when she approached them.
So there's a few players I think that have no chance to win at this point. I do think she's one of them, but I think that her somehow climbing back would be impressive because I don't think that she really has a whole lot of paths to go because she wasn't one of the people to vote out Lydia tonight. But I think
No.
Lydia was really maybe the only loose connection that she had because even though Lydia was going to go with high,
Mm.
I think now it's kind of really a free for all for her and her game being blown up. I like I think she maybe could have like a week, 2 weeks tops left.
Yeah.
I don't know how she fights her way out of that.
No, I agree. Well, it'll be very interesting to see. I know, so we even joked about it. Like, Jonathan is the biggest merge boot in the history of merge boots. And that's because, like, historically, the alpha male athletic guy, head of an alliance, is the target. Cut off the head of the snake, as coach would say. However, it has trended recently to being more like low key threats, more people that everyone can kind of be like, yeah, let's just get rid of this. It's usually a woman now,
Yeah.
which I find very interesting that it's switched to it. So I think a lot of people are viewing the merge boot as kind of like a let's just get through this round rather than let's make a big move this round.
I think potentially it is too. Let's potentially try to get a toxic person off the jury as well. Going into these pre-merge foods, that would be my view. Which I think is why before we get the twist, why Tori and Chanel were the two ones that were rightfully going to be voted out because nobody can trust them. Then the most likely Tori particularly is potentially the most likely to flip flop and blow up a game. I think that maybe that's and that's a good point too. Is that I think that like you just don't want that person on the jury, even if you don't make, even if there's a chance you could make it to the end, like just this person, you just it's like almost like an automatic vote against everyone. It's very weird. Like they have to vote for someone. You're just like you can't trust this person. So if they're going to bring down my game, then they're also going to potentially be on a jury to vote against me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it'll be interesting now that Tori is going to be on the jury to see because people do not like Tori. She has not rubbed one person the right way, and I'm surprised, quite frankly, because the last time we had like a therapist on the show was Denise, and she like really excelled at like helping herself in terms of like telling people what they needed to hear. And maybe Tori's just a little newer in her therapy experience. Maybe if she played in like 20 years, she'd be a little better at it. But
Two different generations too. I think
yeah,
of
yeah.
people.
And Denise is an all-time player in my opinion. So I guess that's unfair too.
One of the more impressive wins for me. That season, one of my favorite seasons too.
Yeah.
One of my favorite player of all time, better that season. God, you're gonna get me down every episode. We get down memory lane with at least one season.
Hey, I mean, also Denise, very special for me. Back when I hosted a different Survivor podcast, she was the first person I winner picked, like from the preseason. So I should always have a special place in my heart for that.
Very very good. Okay, so we get Rocksroy announcing that he's broken time and space. We get the flip, and then we get Tori kind of puts on this act. That they were doing a favor. She was doing she particularly was doing a favor for Rocksroy, setting him there, and they knew that. And Rocksroy laughs. Everybody else is really kind of like, what is this girl talking about? I think she was setting herself. She absolutely had to win this immunity challenge because I think she was kind of really just throwing more gasoline on the fire against her. And then obviously she does. She fucking wins.
Hey, gatekeep, gaslight, girl boss. That's Tori's motto.
An impressive win. There's no way about it. That's
dude. That challenge is hard.
It's not an easy challenge. It's something that I was telling my wife. It's a challenge that like I like sometimes feel like I can potentially do really well in, and then I kind of just sit back and look at it. and I'm like, that is so hard. Just like how tense you have to be the whole time, how careful you have to be. She didn't fall once, and I mean, credit where credit's due. That was very, very impressive. A very impressive win by her. First individual immunity winner of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Just props to her. Did exactly what she needed to do, and literal worst case scenario for everybody. Everybody that's left, because you now have Chanel that is immune and you have Tori that is immune.
Yep.
Um,
I
and
I have to give a shout out too. The prop department killed it with this immunity necklace. Looked so dope.
does, yep, agreed. They're really leaning into the whole snake thing
Yeah,
this year
the
too.
snake eating its tail.
Yes,
I guess is that part of the time metaphor? I'm not sure. I don't know. Like I don't really know why they went with that, but I like it. I dig it.
because I guess
It's
where does it end? Does the snake like continue just eating? Yeah, that's a whole.
infinite. Yeah. So I mean, Tori. I'm not like a big fan of Tori, and especially her online self and certain things she said. We'll leave it at that. But I am a big fan of when someone who's gonna get voted off wins immunity for my own viewing, pleasure and seeing people have to scramble off of that. So
Yep,
that was good.
agreed. Agreed. I guess anything outside the game aside, because I always personally try to just keep everything that's outside the game
Yeah.
away from the game. A conversation have had a lot of times separate the art from the artist. It's like always very, very complicated.
It seems to get harder and harder
It
every
really
day.
does.
But
Um, uh, Tori's one of the people I don't see winning, but she's shaping up to be one of the great, or like a great. Every season needs a bad guy, a villain,
mm,
and I think we're getting that with Tori too. But I don't necessarily think she's playing a poor game. I just think that like I think she's playing the chaotic villain game. I think she's playing compared to everybody else, maybe towards the bottom end of gameplay this season. Just because she's just flip flopping, doing a lot of different things I just don't agree with, including like just following Rocksroy and badgering him
mm.
around the forest.
Oh, and in this episode, when they're doing the scramble after the challenge, she tells Jonathan to his face, like, I want to win more immunities.
What was that?
My way. It's like, oh, okay, Tori.
And she ended up voting against him too. So now he knows that she's one of the ones that voted against him.
Yeah, that was bad.
So yeah, so let's get into the scramble. So now we have everybody scrambling, and this is the name that is immediately thrown out is Jonathan from Lydia. Naturally, Jonathan was going to get thrown out here as he should have been. We have this is the scene that we get with Romeo talking about how everybody loves Jonathan and all that. We get Rocksroy and Jonathan together. Find these gigantic clams, basically saying, we're in Dre already vouched for you. We're in a tribe together. We're in an alliance together.
It's a bro down moment, to be sure.
Which kind of gets into a whole different another conversation at the end too with votes. Is I'm not quite sure what Rocksroy was doing with his vote, or what went on there. But everybody's scrambling. It seems to really be the clear-cut two people at the beginning of this are Marianne and Jonathan. We're having Marianne and Jonathan pitted against each other until they have their guardian angel Omar swoop in from the heavens and play one of the more impressive plays I've seen recently of someone that does not have a vote, of someone who is seemingly, without a doubt, going to have two team members voted out. Talks to Lydia, realizes that Lydia is not super solid within this 8. And plays that to his advantage. As much as I hate that as a Lydia chlamydianator, really, really impressive. I'm super high on Omar. I think Omar is somehow in one of the better episodes I've seen in a while. One of the seasons where I think we have a lot of great players. Somehow the MVP of this episode, because he saves his entire original tribe with no vote. He breaks up. He somehow convinces High to break up his alliance with Lydia, which is really the biggest talking point of this episode for me that we can get into at the very end. I just thought everything that he did here was just really, really impressive. And I've done a complete 180 on him because I really thought he was maybe potentially just kind of, he was just there. I'm there kind of hiding behind Jonathan for whatever that was worth. But now I think that, like I said earlier, I think he's really kind of come into his own.
Yeah, and I think obviously it wasn't like there wasn't a ton of complications on their tribe. You know, like they lost a tribe member early. Their first vote was very straightforward, and then the rest was just like winning challenges off the back of Jonathan. Now we're seeing Omar, and yeah, I still don't understand how he pulled this off. I don't know how he convinced everyone that this was the move. My best guess is Hi and Mike were like, listen, like, we love Lydia, but Jonathan is a shield for us. Lydia is not a shield for us at all. We're going to get clipped before Lydia will if, like, people turn on us. Whereas if we're 100% solid with Jonathan, he's going to be the one who gets taken out before us. And I think that makes sense. I don't know if you agree with that's probably how this happened.
And it's something I understand, obviously, why we didn't see any of that,
Mm,
because obviously it would spoil the reveal between who gets voted out.
yeah.
Um, I get it. I don't know. I think it's tough to go from it's absolutely wasn't an option for him to vote out Lydia. He was willing to go to rocks for her. I think you have that locked down. You have
Mm,
that alliance where you two are. I thought no matter what, going to stay loyal together. I was really surprised by Mike. Really is super loyal. Mike basically put it into High's hands, like I'll do whatever you're going to do, and clearly he
yeah.
did. Um, and I think it goes back to earlier too. I think that High is here to win the game, and so I'd like to think maybe in the same situation, because I think Lydia was another player that was never going to win this season, in my
Mm,
opinion. She was just at no point ever a challenge threat. She was playing a social game. I love her. I love her Twitter personality. But
yes.
I
So funny. Oh my God. She's so great on Twitter.
I tweeted out I'm a Lydia stan for
Mm,
life. I just didn't think that there at any point there was really a chance she was going to win this, and I just don't think that she was really doing anything to set herself apart. So I'm not for the sake of gameplay. I'm not super upset that she was voted out. And I think for the argument for High too, like I said was saying earlier, I think that he's realizing that he has these relationships already forming with these people,
mm,
and seemingly a lot of people are going him to tell him, because why would Omar, other than I guess maybe they needed the votes, why would Omar go to him knowing that they were super close? I mean, maybe he didn't
mm,
know they're super close, but like they were already talking about how it seemed like it was kind of common knowledge that he went to Rocks or was willing
mm,
to go to Rocks for her, because I saw a few people reference it. So I think that maybe it was that High being the great player that he is. And that's I wish I didn't kidnap Ben and throw him in the trunk of my car because of this, because it seemed like Ben kind of had a different point of view on why High would vote against Lydia, but I think it was that I didn't think he realized this opening of like I can align myself with the majority. I think that I'm building these relationships with these people.
mm,
I have the amulet. I am aware of who has immunity idols on this island now. Um, and
yeah.
Marianne, seemingly a non-factor now because now her name's just permanently going to be out there.
Mm,
Everybody knows she has an immunity idol. I think that he just saw this opening and he took it. And I guess like now that I've had time to let it settle, in my opinion the smarter move, because if you lose that vote, you potentially have Lydia still going home, and you have your
yeah.
you know that you just weren't truthful to what you were saying.
Mm. And I think like um High has gone to what, three tribal councils now, and two of them was literally been like, all right, Lydia's gonna get voted off. One, it made 100% sense that he was gonna protect Lydia because like
Yep.
at that the way the numbers were 4-2, if he lets Lydia go, he's just next and he's not at the merge, for sure. This time he had more room, and I think he didn't want to vote Lydia out, but like it's $1 million at the end of the day, and like you've known Lydia for what, 13 days. Like,
Mm-hmm.
sorry, like I like you, but I gotta think about myself here.
I think the ultimate deciding factor at the end too was that they knew that Marianne has an idol, and
Mm,
I think that potentially could have been very bad, because now in hindsight though, if Mike and High voted against Marianne would have went home.
yeah,
But then you really had that threat of someone playing an idol, and then you
mm,
have your whole game is blown up. It's not you
yeah,
going home, but your whole game is blown up at that point if she plays that anyway.
and like that would have like taken such finesse to put a plan together and not tip Marianne or Omar or Jonathan off that it was being put together,
Yeah.
yeah, I just don't think it would have been a realistic thing. And I know people are like, well, if you scooped up everyone else, you could have had the numbers, but like I don't think it would have played out the same way if they actually gave a like full court press for that.
And I wonder what Marianne was referencing though when she was playing her vote and she was saying that this was the biggest risk she's ever made.
I
I
think it was not playing her idol. I think it was like, I don't know if I'm going to get voted off, but I want to not play my idol. So I think that's what she meant.
I took it as she was taking a risk of not voting against Jonathan. Was my point of view. Because I think maybe because we didn't get a whole lot of time with that, it was Omar talking to Jonathan and Marianne of potentially Marianne being blindsided potentially by Omar, I guess. Because you saw that both Marianne and Jonathan voted against Lydia. I think maybe she was referencing she was taking a risk of not voting against Jonathan and having because I don't think in the end because if you're not gonna play your idol, you're not gonna play your idol at that point. Like once you're going to vote, you already know everything that's been said. So I think that's another fact. That's another plus to Omar is now Omar has the full trust of Marianne. Yeah. I don't think Jonathan and Marianne is like working together. I think Omar is now the middleman of that. But which is props to him. Yeah, I don't rank Omar as high or even Drea. I think Drea's really, really impressive right now too. I think she's really wheeling and dealing. And we see the preview next week too that she's kind of potentially willing to at least what it looks like cut the head off of Romeo to keep her game going. I think she's really, really impressing me. If I had two people that I had to pick that I thought were going to win it right now, I would actually probably pick Drea and High. With a few others climbing, but Omar is starting to get up there. Because we're now in the stage 2, where now we're going to be getting into individual immunity challenges, of puzzles, of more finesse style challenges, not necessarily strength. And a lot of people can excel at those. There's a lot of like people that are in good shape that are left. So I'm really excited. I think that we're in for a really, really great second half of this season. I think that I'm continue to just really grow on 42. It's one of my favorite seasons I think so far that I've watched. Hopefully it ends on a high note because I've seen a few seasons that started out great and then kind of really floundered.
Yes.
But I'm just all in. I'm in love with this season, this cast. Like everyone's just so likable. It's just I love it.
No, I completely agree. And like you said, I don't want to get my hopes up because, for instance, I thought the pre-merge of like Ghost Island was pretty amazing, and I was like, there's no way that this like season isn't going to be an all-timer. And the back half of it was not that good. So hopefully season 42 keeps delivering as much. I think
the problem with Ghost Island 2 is that the biggest conflict of the entire season between Chris,
yeah,
between
Dominic.
Chris and Dominic was flushed out there.
Yeah, right at the merge.
And so that was kind of like the end of that. Mm-hmm. Then it was really kind of Dominic's show from there on out. Dominic and Wendell.
Yeah. It was literally like the two best players of the season had each other's back 100% and then just ran the season. Like it was ridiculous.
Where here we clearly see everybody's there to play. And I say if I had to pick High or Drea, that's not me saying that I think that they're clear runaways. Those are the people that I think as of right now are looking pretty good. I can really see almost everybody left winning except for the exception of Tori, Chanel.
Yeah.
That's it. I think everybody else like kind of has a chance. Especially like Omar, I would have been down on before this episode, like I was saying, but now I think that he's a player. He's smart with what he did, and
he made JT. So Jonathan's been making JT proud all season. Omar probably made Steven very proud.
Yeah,
his end of it.
I saw Steven on Twitter too, in his natural Steven fashion. Steven's a big sucker for the for the meatheads each season. He was very upset that there was a potential Jonathan was going to be voted out. Yes. So it's nice to see that he needs to be the Robin to Batman.
Same old Steven. First JT, then Jeremy. Like, that's just who he gravitates towards. I love it. He's one of my favorites. But it's so funny.
Mine as well. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, it's so much compiled in the 2 hours, but at the same time, we get a much clearer picture of kind of where everybody stands at this point.
Mm.
And it just seems like it's gonna be pedal to the metal from here on out. I think just because everybody that's left, I think each week is just gonna be a threat of everybody potentially gonna be going home.
I know
Um,
we got this giant alliance. Is this giant alliance going to stick together? Probably not.
they're
Right?
technically already down one. They're already down to
yeah.
7 from 8.
Yeah. So not a great start, but we'll see. Like we obviously don't want to see a steamroll, but I think there are enough like selfish players in a good way. I mean that is a compliment. Like you are gonna be like, okay, this is nice. It got me through a round, but I'm gonna try to take control. Like Romeo said, like I want to take control of this game, and I think there's a lot of people like that.
Agreed. Like I said, I'm really excited. I can't say enough good things about this season, especially comparatively to last year, and apparently to a few seasons before that too. So, which is
It's
great.
been a rough run. It's been tough.
Um, Hopefully next week I'll let Ben out of my car.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll figure it out.
I think Ben naturally wrangles us in and keeps the conversation going. But before we go, do you have anything else to say?
No, just follow me on Twitter at the fake BMAR. That's BMARR. We also launched a website for our spinoff channel, Wicked Good Sports, called wickedgoodeverythingsports.com. It's a sports blog, probably unsurprising based on the name, but would love it if you check that out.
Agreed. Brian wrote an article that the Dolphins are going to win the Super Bowl, and
I had to start off with a really clickbait article to kick it off to get people aware, and people got aware. People were finding me on Twitter and being quite mean,
Good.
which I love. That's great.
Good.
Please, I'll play the heel as much as like bring it on.
I clicked on that out of anger when I saw it.
I mean, I don't actually believe they're going to win the Super Bowl. I had to be bombastic. For
nobody thought the Bengals were going to be going there this year.
That's true.
Anybody who did lying. I think I saw someone that did actually call it early on, but regardless, yes, follow us and everything. Wicked Good Show eventually will be coming back. We're going to be doing that eventually.
Yes.
We have many other projects that we want to do. Please check out the blog. Check out the YouTube. Wicked Good Everything.
Should probably make a new YouTube video at some point. I ordered some costumes that came in today, so we'll see. We'll see some stuff happening there.
Wonderful. You can follow me on Twitter at DJ Clubberlang until Elon Musk buys it. I don't know what's going to happen once Elon buys it. His whole stupid thing about how you can pay $3 a month, like to have a check mark next to your name, like defeats the whole fucking point. You can just pay to have it. I don't want to have it. That's stupid.
Yeah, I want to be given it.
That's dumb. Yeah. Like, why do I want to pay $3 so everybody get out? Fucking dumb.
I've literally considered because I am a writer and I have a blog. I was like, I should just try freelance for like a few sites so that I can just get a check mark, because there's so many people who have like no following, but because they wrote for like bigger websites a few times, they just have a check mark, and it looks so ridiculous because it's like, don't think anyone was going to be impersonating you.
I've seen a Twitter of someone that has a blue check mark before. And it's cool. You do get to do different things with the check mark and like talk to different people and things like that.
Yeah.
Which is cool, but no, it's cool not to have one. And everybody gets it, then it's not cool to have it anymore.
True. So basically what you're saying is subscribe to us, tell your friends about us so that we can get our check mark, so that Elon Musk won't kick us off Twitter.
Yes.
When he buys it,
we could get a check mark. You can't get a check mark.
Right.
Yes, exactly. Yep. Follow us on all that. We'll be back next week. Survivor. We're gonna keep. Hopefully, the ball's gonna keep going. I can't see it stopping now because, like I said, there's just so many great players left. So many people that are willing to play that I don't see that changing. So
much like a boulder pushed by Jonathan over a hill, we're gonna keep rolling.
Massive hunk of a man.
Yep.
What did Mike say? My whole heart. I swear, my whole heart. Where are you? Whatever you said. All right. I'm Dylan. That's Brian. This has been the Blindsiders, and we will see you next week.
Yes. Thank you for listening.